Right, we're talking about Facebook. They seem to have got themselves into another little measurement mess.
That's right. So Facebook published their own audience figures, and it appears that their coverage figures are actually greater than the population in some countries.
Yeah, indeed. So this is some brilliant analysis. I think it started off in Australia. Journalists at Ad News had looked at total users of Facebook versus the census and realised that the first number was much bigger than the second. And then last week, Wall Street analyst Brian Weezer did the same analysis for the US, looking at different demographic segments, and most of them appeared to be larger than actual census data.
Yeah.
And then this has kind of caught fire a little bit this week and become somewhat of a national news story.
But what's, I think, particularly concerning is that the greatest exaggerations of these figures appear to be within Facebook's prime target audiences.
Yeah. So let's just look at those. I mean, you can see here, when we look by market, you can just see the scale of the overestimations that are happening. And these are the gaps between Facebook universes or Facebook coverage versus census data.
Yeah.
And then if you actually look, you split those down by segments, you can see exactly as you just said, that the major overestimations are within what Facebook would consider their prime audiences, their core audience, and their most expensive audience for advertisers.
Absolutely.
So the overestimation here is very valuable,
yes,
potentially to advertisers.
Yeah. So the reason that this is important is because there's no suggestion that Facebook are actually making any more money from these inflated figures, because they are only paid when they deliver actual impressions and impacts, etc. Yeah. But where it does become critical is in the planning process. So a planner will be looking at these figures and justifying Facebook's role within a media plan in comparison to other media, for example. Yeah. And so if these figures are inflated, then it perhaps provides a prettier picture for Facebook's role within that media.
Yeah. So a lot of money is at stake in terms of the allocation, upfront allocation. And you'd think Facebook would have something quite significant to say about this and maybe feel a bit more accountable. But from what we've read, and we've searched a lot for some good comment from Facebook, they seem to be rather dismissive about this, to say that there are reasons why these numbers might be inflated, either through people lying about their age or being on holiday or being in different countries, and that confuses the reporting. But I don't think that accounts for the scale of the
That's the issue. There might be some small margin for that, but the significance of the discrepancy is just too great, I think, to attribute to that. And
so we're kind of looking for some greater reasoning and accountability from Facebook on that. The agency community, who obviously should be looking at this very closely, have said various things, including that it calls the credibility of Facebook's measurement tools into account, which is kind of fair enough. But also, the thing that's kind of baffling us is that accessing the audience information on Facebook is really easy. It takes like 20 seconds to figure that out. Accessing census data is really easy. It takes another 20 seconds to do that. And then in the final 20 seconds, just do some maths and figure out that one is bigger than the other. It's a minute's worth of work. How has it taken an Australian journalist and a Wall Street analyst to find out something that was just so fundamental flaw in a measurement of a major advertiser? This is something not on the periphery of the industry. This is a core audience to one of the world's biggest advertising revenue businesses. So how was there not a media planner anywhere in the world that figured out that there was a kind of problem here? So I think the agency community also have to say, what's your role there? Because you're advising advertisers how to allocate spend, and that's being based on flawed numbers.
Absolutely, and it's not as if Facebook have got a kind
They've got form.
They've got form. They haven't had a kind of clean rap sheet, right? Yeah. I mean, you would be thinking of scrutinising as many of those kind of facts and numbers as you possibly could. Yeah. And clients should be asking these kind of questions of their agency partners as well.
Yeah, exactly right.
But I think what's particularly troubling is the fact that the sophistication of Facebook's measurement tools should be beyond scrutiny, right? I mean, the integrity of their delivery in numbers should be without kind of question. But you compare that with TV, right? So in the US, Nielsen People Meter accounts for less than 1% of the population. Yet nobody casts any doubts over their delivery. Yet you've got Facebook now who's trying to steal share from TV, and their figures are flawed and ripe for concern and question.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see they've been on a massive trajectory of growth in terms of like advertising revenue has grown consistently, and the projections are that will continue to grow. I think you'd have to say, and that relies on them now being able to, having dominated display and increasingly video, to be able to actually steal away share of broadcast TV budget. They're going to have far greater trust and integrity in their measurement, like the faith that people have in Nielsen and Barb in the UK and others. And frankly, if they can't sort out their measurement and they can't rebuild trust from marketers in their measurement tools, then that growth is just not going to happen.
Absolutely.
Okay, good week 4.
The founders of creative agency Adam and Eve.
Yes.
So the news broke this week that they have concluded their 5-year earn-out, earning themselves £85 million.
Wow,
in addition to the £25 million that they were given when they first sold their business to Omnicom Group in 2012. That's £110 million worth of return in 9 years worth of agency. So well done to those.
And I tell you what's nice as well is that you've got some big numbers associated with like a real people business here, not just a tech business.
That's right. Yeah. Good. So really well done for them. And also the news broke in Campaign, which was relaunched this week as a monthly magazine. So I think these guys have done really well as well.
Yeah, it's a good week for them.
And it was a bad week for?
Bad week for, I think anyone who's just trying to simplify their life a little bit, because Apple came along and made phones even more complicated, and continued expensive. Continued their obsession with building features into ever more complex features into ever more smaller devices. I'm not convinced that that's the way that the world necessarily wants to go, and it's a case of shoulda versus coulda. Do we need face recognition technology in our mobile devices? I don't know, but. If, like me, you're looking for a more simple life, you won't be shelling out the entry cost of $1,000 now for the basic mobile phone. Maybe you'll be looking for something a little bit more simple.
Very good.
Okay, question of the week. I think the question of the week is, what do you think? Do you think Facebook's revenue projections will be affected massively by their ability to measure things properly?
Yes, no, or whatever.
Great. And let's look at last week's poll. We asked you what you thought of the new format Media Snack. I'm pleased to say it was 100% in favour of the new Media Snack, which doesn't even bear putting into a graphic because it'd just be one big yellow dot. Thank you for participating. But that's your Media Snack for this week. Thank you very much for watching.
See you next week. We've discovered that some of the audience figures that Facebook publish within their
We haven't discovered these.
The census figures that have been published by marketers.
Just a small point.
Yeah.